Hi, and welcome to a small, medium, at large podcast. I'm your host, Gail Heisen, bringing you intimate interviews beyond normal boundaries. I want to thank all of you listeners for sticking with us. We've done over 100 shows now, and we've been on twice a month for the last almost 4 years now. So I want to thank all of you listeners for subscribing, liking, sharing, especially love your comments. I also want to thank my son Richard, my daughter Nancy, my husband David for producing and uh, writing the descriptions and posting my show on all of the different social media sites like Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, and all other shows. So let's welcome our special guest here today. I want to tell you about Margaret Solorio. She is an author, intuitive, guide, energy mentor, podcaster, and creator of the Home Frequency Reset, a transformative service that helps clients clear energetic clutter and realign their spaces to support personal growth and inner peace. Through her podcast, Intuitive Wisdom and 1.1 offerings, she blends grounded spiritual insight with practical energy work to help conscious individuals create environments that match their evolving frequency. Margaret has a background in biotechnology and certification as an angel Reiki master. Her mission is simple: help people feel energetically at home in their space and in themselves. Her new book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is available on Amazon.com. Her website, deliciousease.com. I'm going to spell it out here for all of you that are listening. Capital DELICIOUSEASE.com. Let's welcome Margaret here today. Welcome, Kay.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here. And I have a feeling we actually live close to each other. I'm talking
Maybe
to you
we do.
today from Sebastopol.
Oh my
And
goodness.
are you in
Yeah,
Santa
I'm in
Rosa?
Windsor.
Oh, you're in Windsor. Oh, my brother lives in Windsor.
Oh my goodness.
He lives
Yes,
in that
normally when I
area.
talk to someone, Northern California is like north of San Francisco is as specific as we can get.
Right. So
My
no,
goodness,
we're
down the
quite
road.
we're quite close.
That's
In
fantastic.
fact, I
Yes,
go out to the lake all the time out at Lake Sonoma there, so I'm always going to Healdsburg, the Dry Creek Road.
yep,
So we both live in a beautiful area, and you'll
we
note that
do.
today you have a little sweater on and I have a long sleeve shirt because even though it's July, we're having very cool weather in the morning.
Yeah, that marine layer hung around a little longer.
Yes, I love it. I have no
I do
complaints
too.
about it.
Amen.
So I'm going to start with my first question that I always ask every one of my new guests on their first time on the show. And it's about, what was your family and childhood like? Did this set you on a spiritual path of energy work and clearing frequencies in our environments? Or did this happen for you to go on a spiritual path at some pivotal other moment much later in life? I'd like to find out, like, the beginning. How did this begin?
That's fair. And I think I'm still uncovering, it's a great question. I'm still uncovering those pieces now that I've shifted to doing homework. I recognize how I've been doing that all along, little by little. I would say I had a bit of a difficult childhood. We moved a lot, and I wouldn't say it was spiritual. Um, but I think sometimes when you go through difficult times or traumatic times, it kind of puts up your senses. Like you learn, you hear your intuition or you get a little intuitive wisdom that doesn't make sense. Like a lot of times, I feel like when we're conditioned or taught things, we really easily rationalize our way out of our intuitive hits or wisdom. And I think having difficult situations allowed me to see that those were valid, like, started to give me that connection, even if I didn't always listen to it. But the big change for me happened more recently during COVID. So I definitely went through life for a while, buying into what I was taught that if I did life one specific way, everybody would around me I loved would be successful and everything would be good. And I had and I still do have a great life if you look in from the outside. But I'd say the difference between 5 years ago and now is 100% difference in terms of the inside out. I'm much happier. I really enjoy the life I lead, and it's just so exciting every day to wake up instead of kind of dreading it because of that. So that spiritual awakening happened for me again when COVID and everything flipped on its side, and it wasn't sustainable. I had a few breakdowns, and then I had a conversation with myself. You can't keep doing that. You got to figure something else out. And then it was just little by little, and meditating happened helped me a lot grow that.
I find that in so many of my guests so many will mention, and they're in all different fields and walks of life, but they will say meditation is the thing that grounded them and gave them the focus to do the work that they do, and that they know that it's the most important thing.
Yeah,
I,
excuse me.
yeah, I think that so this is very fresh then, really, because in the last 5 years change. So we're really
Hmm.
seeing you at the moment when all this has been happening in your life. This is very exciting.
Yes, I my favorite story for me is Julia Child didn't learn to cook till she was 40, so I'm starting anew at 40 is fine.
And
Um,
you're married with children, so you have the whole
yeah.
world of being a mother and a wife and a person with a house and things to take care of and responsibilities.
Yes, exactly. There are multiple facets to my life which I used to change myself to fit each of those roles, and now I have learned that I can work on myself and shine as myself and not dampen myself and just show up as me in each different role, and that's even better for everyone else.
Well, I want to say that I want to talk about, which we'll do in the second part of this, about the home frequency experience. But what I do want to talk about is a little bit about your book, because I finished it last night, and I, I mean, if I had known you, I'd have called you numerous times and say, "What? That happened to me too," you know.
Yay.
And I can't believe that I'm doing this podcast now, and I never had intended to do a podcast. I just found myself in this, and it has its own life. So I'm just following along on the ride here.
Thank you.
And I knew nothing about podcasts, and I'm finding that this is giving me so much back that I'm hoping it's also giving as much to others as they listen to the show.
It is.
And I I'm reading your book, and I'm reading that. I mean, what could the timing be that I'm reading a book about everything that I'm exactly doing and experiencing at this moment? So I didn't know what to say, but I want to talk about a couple of the instances about the book. And I've got my little questions here on the side, so pardon me for a second here. Uh, I wanted to say a thank you about supporting the idea that we deserve the happiness and getting rid of the shoulds in our life. Because the shoulds in my life have definitely, been controlling me and making me do decisions that aren't necessarily what's right for Gail.
Hmm.
And reading this in your book, I was very happy to do that. And I know that these things that we're talking about, many listeners are having these same issues. We're not talking about a subject that other people aren't having to deal with. So I was reading about you discussing changes in your life and views and focusing on self-care. And that's exactly what I'm trying to focus on right now. And the difficulties of the things that come inside your brain that you've been
Mm,
raised
yeah.
to be told, which is to take care of everyone else first and then take
Hmm.
care of yourself later. So I loved your book explaining how that's not really the correct way. The correct way is to take care of yourself first, and your example of the oxygen coming from the ceiling in the
Airplane.
airplane, so that you then can help your children. But I operated just like you were talking about, which ends up making you become exhausted, which is giving all of myself to everyone else and then never recharging. So
Right.
these things that you're talking about are so important. Managing time, you discuss managing time and accepting what was really getting to me, since you're much younger than I am. So in my mind now, I'm in this age of 70. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is, this is the last section of life or the third part or the golden age or whatever you want to call this next section. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how much time do I have left and what do I want to be doing with it? And you're encouraging in this book to do the things that make you happy
Mhm.
and that's a good thing.
It's a very
And
good
that's
thing.
not, it's
It's not
it's
a
the key.
luxury. Well, it is the key. One, life is what you experience. So definitely experiencing, I feel joy is the purpose of life. But also, and going back to what you said about self-care, I feel like we're taught a lot that self-care is a luxury when actually it's an investment. So if you do invest in yourself and you can show up for whatever you do, if you're showing up for your family, if you're showing up for work, however you're showing up, if you're showing up as your best self and you're going to be calm and you're going to make better decisions and you're going to, you know, just be the person you want to be instead of being, kind of in the yellow zone where you're about to go red, because you've just had too much to deal with and you haven't let go of that energy. And it's such a different way to experience your own life, but also to approach it. And everyone benefits. I think that's something I heard that if I took time to take care of myself, I would somehow deplete from those I loved or those around me. I would take away from them when the opposite is true. If I spend 5 minutes to collect myself reading, because I love to read, then I take a deep breath and go and help everybody, and everyone else has a better experience too.
It's so that's where I want to talk a little bit about uh time. And I'm just going to read four of the mantras or things you suggest people could put up and remind themselves. Pick one of these, and you have about seven or eight in the book. But I'm just going to read these four because they hit home so intensively, and I really think they're so important. So when you said pick one, I was like, I can't pick one. I got to pick four here. So you write, there is more than enough time for everything. Things are always working out for me. I am enough as I am in this moment, and anything is possible. To me, those were such powerful, I couldn't pick one.
They are. They're all really good. One of my favorite sayings is time is squishy. So time is a human construct, and I think we forget that because so much of our schedule and our day and the way we communicate with the world is rigidly planned. And in actuality, it responds to your energy. So if you're coming from a higher vibration, a better feeling mood, that energy, then things will flow more easily. And it almost is like time expands. You get more done in less time, or you get more done easily, or, instead of you having to worry about calling the doctor for something, the doctor suddenly calls you. And that's one more thing you can take off your list, but it was easier. So all these things go together. And the other ones for me a lot are mindset. Like we say a lot of times, anything is possible, but then you have a little kid ask you a question and you start arguing for all the ways it's not possible, and you forget that how limiting you are for yourself if you take away that fundamental belief that anything is possible, because actually anything is possible, even if you can't see the way to get from point A to point B, then you just have something to learn. It's not that it's not possible. So I love those too. And I actually used things are always working out for me the other day over and over. Because sometimes when you're in it and going through something a little difficult, you forget that things are happening for you and not to you. And so coming back to that mantra is just like, okay, it's just a matter of time before I can see the opportunities in this. So I'm just gonna keep repeating that to myself.
Things are happening for you,
For you.
not to you. That takes
Yeah,
you out of the victim role.
exactly.
And I just felt your book had a lot of words of wisdom of
Oh, thank you.
very good, important things, not woo woo or anything.
Yeah, I
Very
mean, I
apt.
love the woo woo too, but I am very practical person, and so a lot of these are little shifts. Like when I
Yes,
realized that when I would argue, I was actually arguing for my own limitations. That blew my mind. Or the should thing that you described earlier. For me, a lot of it was a language pattern. It's kind of something I grew up with, and it's something you say, oh, I should do this, I should do that. It's a way we learn to express ourselves, but it is very heavy because it's not really, it takes away your choice. Not you could do this. So it's relearning some of those little habits that just make huge impact. I love those.
I learned something from, I had a guest, a Buddhist monk who teaches meditation to prisoners in Southern California in the prison systems. And then some of them end up being released, and he holds a meditation group every Sunday. And I've joined the meditation group since having him
Wow.
and one of his inmates as one of my guests. And the the meditation with them is so satisfying, but it's the sharing of each other's life stories that we do for a half hour, before the meditation. And when I heard this one man who's only been out of prison for a year and a half and was in prison for many, many years, much of his life, and I'm listening to him, and he says, I realize that every day, and this is something I do, he said, I would have to say to myself, how much did I accomplish? What did I do today? How many things have I gotten done? And I realize, he said, that I do this to validate myself.
Hmm.
And when he said that, it took like, I don't know, this was last Sunday, it took like a big pressure off of me, realizing
Yay.
that, oh, every day I'm sitting there at the end of the day, I'm saying, well, how much did I get done? I didn't realize I was really, assessing myself or judging myself to give myself validation that I was a good person or I accomplished what I said. And we can free ourselves from that after reading your book.
Amen. Oh, thank you. Yes, I obviously was a victim to the same thing because, and I still, it's easy to fall into the doing. I call it the being and the doing. So the doing is, that's culturally what we're taught. I mean, when you meet somebody, they say the first question is often, what do you do? What's your work? Where do I rank you in the value of your, what you give to society in terms of actions you take, instead of the uniqueness that you are and who you be, like how you do something, what you bring to it. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of us do the same thing. There are millions of authors, there are millions of podcasters. I love both, but what makes you unique and then what makes me unique for my show is how I do it or how you do it, who you choose to have as a guest, the questions you ask, the format, like all these wonderful little bits that come together that make you you. That's the
Yes.
specialness, how you be, how you, instead of the actual act of doing it. So, yeah, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. And that's another mantra that you listed. You are enough just as you are in this moment. That reminder for me still gives me goosebumps because it really makes you step back and go, okay, wait, if I'm already
Well,
enough,
it's
let's try this
it's
again.
taken me almost my whole lifetime to finally get over the fact that I did not have an education and always felt that I was lesser than the other people. I work with all these scientists who have PhDs, they're physicists. I'm a subject in their, paranormal research. But I always, when they sometimes my name is on some of these papers, and the
Yay.
editor calls up and says, "Okay, and what's the letters behind your name?" And I say, "I don't have any letters." My
Just the ones
friend
you
Dean
see.
Radin said, he said, "You have LE." I said, "What's LE?" He said, "Life experience."
Oh,
And that
amen.
was very soothing to hear. But my shoulds and whatevers for all those years were operating that I was lesser than these people that I'm working with or interviewing or talking with because I don't have the educational background they have. I finally let that go. But it's
Yay.
taken me, I don't know, 40 years to get rid of
I
that.
Yeah, I believe in divine timing. So it happened when it was supposed to. And so, I mean, there are plenty of lessons I have to learn over and over and over again. But I definitely have learned experience is different. And also, we never know who has what opportunities. My husband and I have very different educational backgrounds. He just didn't have the opportunity to go to school as long as I did. And I love education, but he loves education too. He takes the opportunity whenever he can to learn new things. So I think that value can still exist if you have different experiences are coming from different places, and it still gives you such different perspectives that's helpful. Then we all grow and learn.
Yeah, because I thought of education as only that you graduated from a specific
Yeah.
institute. I didn't think of education as education is learning how to do something, how to fix something, how to make something, how
Right.
to be creative. There's so many things that education is teaching you. So, anyways, we will go on here. I oh, the other thing I want to bring up is I love that you said it's not, you find it's much better to focus on one task instead of multitasking. And I have been a multitasker, had my own businesses, did 15 things at once, and now I can't do that anymore. And so I've been forced to become a one task at a time person, and it's much
Good.
more rewarding, much more
Yes.
satisfying, and I have much more quality, as you spoke about. I'm not getting
Yes.
quantity done, but I'm getting quality. So I really appreciated that you pointed that out. And I had no time to do any of your exercises, of course, but I love
That's
reading about
okay.
your insights. And I have one more question before, well, two more questions before we move into the space and frequencies. Can you talk about what you called or referred to in the book as the train approach and training the brain or the train
Yeah.
tracks? I don't have the
I
exact
love that.
words.
Right, laying new tracks. So
Yeah,
thought
laying new
that's
tracks.
yeah, it's kind of thinking of your thoughts as a thought pattern. So we think thousands of thoughts every day and most of them are on repeat. And a lot of times when you have a reaction to something, your first thought is automatic and you can't really control it. So you've started that train down that thought path. Well, in our minds, our ego helps us just build and add to it and add to it. So this visualization of the train really helped me because if you think of like a locomotive train chugging along and then picking up speed and gaining momentum, and sometimes we have those negative self-talk patterns for years. So that thing's been on a roll for a while. So one, it helped me visualize giving myself grace when making the change because that train needs to turn around. It's not going to do so instantly. If it's been going for a while, it's picked up a lot of momentum. So every little bit helps to making that second choice, observing the thought, and then only paying attention to the one that really is positive or helps you or serves you and slowly turning that train around. Or then it also helped me because once you've practiced that and you can start to lay these new thought patterns about how you think about and respect yourself or different, whatever the topic should be, it's almost that awareness allows you to then get off the train, so to speak. So
Mhm.
once that what you can recognize it faster. So if you think a thought that's negative to yourself and you hear it and you say, okay, I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to keep that going. I'm not going to respond to myself in my mind and have that back and forth. I'm just going to get off the train. I'm going to focus on something else and then it'll just go away. It'll, go on its way.
I think it's a very good example and a very good visual. The track, the train,
Yeah, it
and the
helps.
idea of how a train gets momentum or how it needs to, it's, I think,
Right. And that arguing with yourself or even arguing with somebody else, that's really fun to do in the, sense of if somebody's arguing with you, the fastest way to stop it is to not argue back.
yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So you just get off that train. You can say something polite and go away, but you just don't engage and there's no momentum. The argument will just die because there's no fuel.
Um, oh, I guess I actually had a couple more before I go to the
Oh no, this
frequency.
is fun. I
Sorry.
appreciate you reading the book. That's fine. It all goes together.
Okay. So, let's see. Ah, here we are. Can you explain why I was very, I was raised being told that emotions are your worst enemy,
Hmm.
emotions are what's killing you. Gail, you're such an emotional person. My
Oh,
listeners know how emotional I am because I've cried on this show many a time.
oh, my kids laugh all the time. I cry too.
So I want you to explain to our listeners why emotions and feelings are there to help us and also the value of forgiveness.
Oh, yeah, those are two big things. And I agree. When I grew up, emotions just weren't safe. You'd get in trouble for them. So I learned to disconnect from mine for a long time. And it was something to get back in connection. But it turns out, so my favorite word for God, source, universe, however you want to think of that, is spirit. And spirit communicates with us energetically. and your emotions are energy in motion. So it's actually, or a message from your higher self, however you like to think of that spiritual relationship, there to help you. So if something is out of alignment, then maybe you have a negative energetic reaction, and that's your sign like, oh, something's off. I need to give this attention. It's not meant to hurt you. It's not meant to embarrass you. It's not meant to whatever it is, but it is energy in motion. So if we don't allow it to release in a safe way, then it turns inward and it kind of gets stuck in the body and can cause issues other ways. But like you said, the point is that it's there to help you. It's a signal, it's a sign, it's a hey, come here, look at this. something's something's off, something's trying to get your attention. And then you
Uh,
had also asked about forgiveness.
yes.
This was really big because I was someone for a long time that had, oh, I don't even know how to say that. Had a lot of maybe traumatic or bad experience, negative experiences that I didn't know how to process. And I'd kind of left. And so I think, especially when you're a kid and you don't understand all of the circumstances that come together, you just blame yourself for stuff because that's the thing you can control.
Mhm.
So for me, one of the biggest forgivenesses was of myself, for not, I would think I was slow or behind or things because there were just things I hadn't learned that I had to catch up on. And so forgiving yourself for me, and also I want to say so much at the same time. When you have a memory with someone else, the power of forgiveness for you, you don't actually have to approach them and say, I forgive you to their face. And that was really helpful for me too, because I, again, had lots of stuff from the past where that wasn't really a practical thing. And I realized if I learned the power of forgiving and acknowledging and being thankful for the experience and letting it go, it released from my memory and from my energy field. And I was just so much lighter. And the fun thing about that, I thought, is when you are able to fully release and forgive, you can't remember the details. So when you
Mhm.
have something that's traumatic or negative, and I feel like it replays in your mind over and over and over again, and you say the details to yourself over, it's such a something you're so familiar with that that was really a surprise to let it go and to think back about it and not being able to remember the details was very freeing.
I want to tell you that I wrote a book which I was going to publish and then I didn't and la la la. But that's what that writing that book did for me because it was a
Oh, good.
memoir of my life called Small, Medium, at Large. And I wrote all of the uh, traumas and different experiences and forgivenesses and all the different things that happened. And it was able to then have me be able to really separate from the story. So I didn't feel like all the
Yes.
painful trauma was the one that was in control. It was more
Mm-hmm.
like a separate thing, like, oh, was that story? And what you're saying did start to happen where I am forgetting that those terrible things happened. I'm not, it's like, oh yeah, that happened. It's never been it's never, I always felt that those things all made me the person I am today, a compassionate, empathic person. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any regrets of any of the things I've had happen in my life, but I also am not, it's not operating me anymore like it did.
Amen. But
And
even
that's,
even to get to no regrets, that's an awesome step forward because that's recognizing there is value in the contrast in the experience that was negative, that it still served you. That took me a long time to go, oh, look at the skills I picked up from having to do that as a kid. That I for so long I was
oh,
angry that I had to do that as a kid when other people don't have to grow up till they're grown-ups. And then I was
right.
like, well, wait a second, look at all the things I can get done now because I figured it out a long time ago.
That's exactly, I mean, I felt that back then, that I've always been, people say, oh, well, you had this and that, aren't you? I said, no, I'm grateful because it's made me who I am today, gave me strengths and areas. And I know it also developed my psychic self because you were looking for answers.
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
good point.
have some more things here about your book, and I this actually starts going into the decluttering. So I'm going to wait for that one. I want to see if there's any other things. Okay, I just want to talk about the towel and about company. And then we're going to go into your space or our
Okay.
space. I thought this was such a great thing to share with others, which was you were saying that in our space, we need to upgrade your space. I thought this was such great advice. And you say, have the courage to be your authentic self, learn to love and respect yourself. And you say, I just decided to go out and buy new towels for I think you bought new towels and you bought some new dishes that were chipped. Oh, I
Bowls.
could
Yep.
relate to this so. And it's the silliness behind that. Here I
Right.
have this beautiful swimming pool, and we're taking out all these funky old towels for us. But for the guests, I bought all new, beautiful, fluffy, nice towels. Not for us, just for the guests. And then I turned to my husband and I said, why don't we each have a nice towel?
Right. It doesn't, and often it's the little things, like you said, it doesn't cost a lot, but it's just that thing of every time I saw that a little bit ratty towel and I heard the story in my head, like, oh, it's not done all the way. You should keep using it. And then I also felt sad a little because I didn't have nice towels. Like, well, someday I'll be good enough to have nice towels. And that's kind of what it reinforces. And like you said, when I woke up and went, wait a second, that could be a positive anchor that every time I could take a towel out, I go, woohoo, I get to use a fluffy towel. And then happiness spreads, sold. Yeah,
It's a simple
it's
but
very,
really pure example of what you're sharing and talking about. And it
yeah,
combines with the things you said in your book and the things about changing the space in your home.
yes.
So it's simple, but really a powerful towel.
Yes. It's about the energy. And I know we're going to talk about that, but now I've started working with homes. It's so exciting for me because it is, I think we just don't realize how much our space and our things also have an energetic footprint. And that affects our energy and that kind of energetic vibe we put out. And that's reflected back to us. So if we can raise that, raise our minimum, it does nothing but benefit us.
Well, every podcast that I have before my guest comes on, I play my jaw harp, I light a
Wow.
candle, and I burn Mongolian incense from Siberia. And I repeat the guest's name as I do the jaw harping. And I
Oh, thank you.
visualize the person's face. And I just say, let's make a connection. We're doing a show together. And I do this for every show. It's my little ritual. I don't do it in front of the guest or anything, but I feel that it's important for my podcast and what I'm doing to create the space. And that's what those three little items, the candle, the incense, and the jaw harp does. So
Exactly.
I want to go to the home frequency reset and about the only one thing we didn't quickly put in here was about showing up for company and showing up for yourself. I thought that was one other good, simple example. If you could just share that with us, and then we're going to start some questions I have about home frequency reset.
Sure. I think you already alluded to it when you realized that you were putting out the nice towels for the guests who come once in a while, maybe, and not the nice towels for yourself who uses it regularly. It's the kind of that feeling of getting ready and getting excited for guests to come over and making things a little nicer. So maybe you do that once a week for yourself when you clean up your house or however your schedule is. But yeah, I had once a roommate who like always had to take out the trash before a guest came. But other than that, kind of didn't care about it. And I was like, well, wait a second. We live here. We should care about it, you know? Or just it's just that again kind of the energy that is attached to everything we do into ourselves. If there's a way you can make it more exciting, if you use the best cup in your cupboard for your coffee or your tea and then you just get excited to you're the one who gets to drink out of it, it just raises everything. So yeah, treating yourself a little bit in your home as you would company, like you're creating this you can think of it as a sacred space, but I think the point is when we are at home, we want something that supports us and is calm and inviting and comfortable, you know, as you would like. And it's just easier sometimes to explain to people in terms of preparing for a guest, because when you prepare for a guest, it's very clear you want to set a mood, right? When you want them to come in, you want them to breathe fresh air and feel good. You want them to maybe hear some music and get into the mood, or, whatever if it's a kid's party or a holiday party, you set that tone. And so you think about the flow, like, are they coming here to eat, or are they coming here to sit? Or, like all these things you go through to think about their experience holds true for day-to-day stuff too. So making that easier and that flow for you just supports who you are and who you're becoming. So I love that.
And it's simple.
And
It's
yes, not a big
just
overhaul
clean up
needed.
your outside around your area for you to have your lunch outside. It doesn't have to be for the guest, but do the
Right.
same amount of energy you would do for the guest for yourself. And I'm only recently experiencing that as well. So I just want to thank you for highlighting that other thing I've been learning recently. So I want to get to the home frequency reset. And for the listeners, and for myself, what is a home frequency reset and how is it different from traditional decluttering, something I need a lot of, or space clearing? And by the way, I did take your quiz as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, a lot of times when we think about taking care of our homes, and a lot of this comes back to the shoulds we were talking about before, it's just about super organization and cleaning and having it's all about the physical. Kind of like earlier we were talking about, the emphasis is often on the doing. And so now I've turned more to the energy work because I've seen how much of an impact it has and how we don't often think about the energy that things have. So everything has a little energetic footprint. So if you have, it could be a negative experience, like if maybe you have an argument, or it can just be a different intention for the space, the way the space was used, or just build up over time. Energetic residues kind of build up usually in the corners, almost like dust. So to keep that air fresh and the energy moving helps lift the whole mood of the space, helps you with clarity of thought, just helps keep things flowing. So a home frequency reset, and I do them mostly remote so that it doesn't have to be in person, is going through. I work off a sketch. I ask my clients if they have an intention for the session, and then I work off a sketch of the home with each room, kind of just one word, bedroom, living room, whatever it is, and the outside doors marked. And then if there's any outside space too to cover. And as I used to, as an angel Reiki master, go through the physical energy centers or chakras on a body. The angels kind of gave me a download of how I asked and they answered of how I can use that healing modality on a home. So very similarly, I start at the front door and I go through each space and then clear the energy. I do ask clients that they open a window that day so the energy can be released. But I get messages on things that can be done to help the space. So maybe a space needs a little more light, or I did have one that was like the back door needed some more TLC, and the client went back, "Oh, you're right. We could really clean that up." And I'd never seen it. So that's what I love too, that spirit really comes through and meets you where you are when you need it. But just that refreshing kind of reset energetically.
I did that once. I'm also a Reiki master, and I did it for a friend that couldn't sell his house in Chicago. And it was in the very, very fancy neighborhood of Highland Park, where
Hmm.
they're all multi-million dollar homes. So it was a mansion. And I went out there and I did just like what you're describing on every door and window. It's 4 stories. And it took me almost 2 hours to do every door and window in the house, and the place had been listed for sale for 2.5 years and they had never gotten an offer. And
Two
when I
and a half
finished the
years.
cleansing, within 2 weeks, they got their first offer and sold the house. And it was
Fantastic.
nothing that I ever, and while doing it, I got an image of, no, it was in a dream. I went to sleep that night before I was going to do the cleansing. And I said, what happened in this house that makes the vibes here so heavy? And in the dream, I saw that the house was empty and it was very dark in the dream. and all the person's possessions were thrown out the window into a ravine
Oh,
because this was
goodness.
on Lake Michigan. And I'm looking down the ravine and I'm seeing the furniture and all the stuff. And then I see two people that, a man and a woman, that look like they're the ones who've taken everything. And they're like from another country. And that's all I get out of this crazy dream. So I tell my friend in the morning, yeah, I had a crazy dream about the place. And I tell them the dream. And they go over and bring a book because the house, when they bought it, came with a book of the history
Hmm.
and newspaper articles about the house because it had once been, I think, a candy owner or some old time person that made candies or something famous. And therein it was an article about how the woman had gone to the hospital and the house was emptied. And during that empty time, someone came in and ransacked and stole everything and throw it out
Uh,
into the ravine. They
oh, my
even took the
goodness.
copper pipes inside the house. I mean, they really,
Wow.
and so I was reading my dream in the newsprint, but it had happened in the 40s or something.
That's
Like
fantastic.
50 years earlier than when I'd been there. So I want to say that that kind of work of space clearing in a home with Reiki, I didn't know that I could do that. It's just something I happened to try. And I want to say that that definitely works.
Yeah, it helps a
And
lot.
the proof was in the sale. So can a home carry emotional energy from past relationships, trauma, stress? And how do we clear that? And is that something you would do every time there's been an argument or difficulty, or is that something you do once a year in your house, or how do you approach that?
Yes, it can. So I definitely recommend a full home energy reset after a big life transition. But in terms of every argument, I would say use your intuition. So if it feels bad, if and I think we can all feel that. Like if we've gone and if somebody else is having an argument and you walk into the room and no one's saying anything, but they just had the argument, we all know that feeling. So if you have that feeling still when you after you've had the argument and you feel that kind of stuck energy, then yes, and you can use any healing modality that you enjoy. You could use crystals, you can use sound. You can, if you are certified in Reiki, you can use Reiki. You could, there are so many different things you can do to move the energy that it doesn't have to just be me or somebody else you hire to help.
It's very, very good advice. So, what are three simple ways? Oh, well, that is three simple ways you can start to shift the energy in their home today. Is there other things besides, like, just if we want to shift it, not if there's been an argument? Like, how would we
Yeah.
go around? Would we just start to, would we put flowers in the house, or what would be a method of starting to do an actual change and clearance?
Yeah, I agree. And one
Shift.
great way is to bring nature in. So either by bringing flowers in, I usually, when I think of that, like to connect with whatever the person's favorite sense is. So if you're a person who likes their sight, then seeing something, a flower print or actual flowers or a plant is really helpful. If you are someone who loves their sense of hearing, then maybe putting on some bird sounds in the background lightly can just help elevate. I really like refreshing the air. So, rain or shine, winter or summer, I open the windows and get that cross breeze flowing through the house every day. I think that's a really way to kind of help move things and reset. Decluttering, I know we talked about it, but if you just set a timer for 5 minutes without taking on a big project or getting distracted on another big project, just 5 minutes of tidying up and putting a few things away, you kind of you feel that relief and that I like to think of the energy, on the weather maps you see the airflow and the arrows going around everything. It's kind of like that's how I see it. So the energy goes through the room, and if you've got more clutter, then there's more things for it to get stuck on or go over. So not everything, but if you've done for work in the day and you take 5 minutes and you just clear off your desk or put away your shoes or whatever it is, that can really help. And it feels good every time you walk past it. So just a 5 minute declutter. And then Creating a positive energetic anchor, I like that too. So we talked about using a favorite cup or a towel, or maybe the flowers are an energetic anchor for you too. But one of my favorite examples is if you're like saving up to go on a vacation or just getting ready for a vacation. Let's say you want to go to the beach and you put a shell out. So you see that shell every time, and every time you see it, you get excited. You're raising the energy. You're kind of moving it too. So
Like a
placing
visual mantra.
yeah, exactly. Creating visual mantra that helps raise the energy and move it in a more positive way.
I love that idea. If you're planning on a vacation, you have a few of those items that you're going to be,
Yeah.
yeah, whether it's a beach thing. I think that's a great. I have an altar that I've never thought about things like that. I just use it for, for other people when you're trying to help them out if they're ill
Hmm.
or, and so that for me is always flowers and something that's meaningful to them, maybe to put on there.
Beautiful.
Um, I have to say, when I was reading about your decluttering in the book, I just, I mean, I read your book Tuesday, and I just finished on Sunday decluttering. I have a very old house, which, in our area is hard to come by. So it's like 110 years old now, or
Wow.
12, whatever. And it has the wraparound porch with the
Beautiful.
enclosed windows all around it. So I've been in this house for 48 years. So if you can imagine the amounts I've collected in 48 years, but it's not just the stuff that I was realizing when I was cleaning it out. It's my emotional attachment to some of the stuff. Like some of it
Yeah.
is just stuff, like shoes or whatever, and
Hmm.
it's just things. But then there's this table, a plant table that my first husband's father bought me 40 years ago that I've had for 40 years, and maybe it's been sitting in the same spot for at least 25. And I've been looking at it in the same place every time I come in my house, and there it is. It was so tiring to move it. It wasn't that it was heavy, it was how much emotion I had attached to it over the years, and feeling this like I was so touched when my father-in-law gave this gift to me, and he knew I wanted to put plants in it, and he picked a spot and bought it at the furniture store. How could I ever get rid of that? You know, that's my issue.
I think it's all
And
our issues. Yeah. That goes back to the should.
oh, I put it out in my new barn that I'm using to and clearing out stuff to go to another place that'll probably end up being a giant garage sale one day. But it was how freeing it felt when it was over and I looked at my porch and it was just empty space and white paint and wood. And it wasn't, oh, my father-in-law loved me. Oh, this one did this. Oh, that, and I had no idea that that's what was really going on and the actual physicalness of emptying some of your clutter, if you look at the time, it doesn't take very long. It's the
Mm-mm.
mental stuff, the
The
emotional
game you
stuff.
play. Yeah.
Anyhow, it's a very big issue for me. So I find the
For all
timing of
of
this
us.
just amazing. And also, when I realized the other part was when people move, that's when they do their decluttering. It's
A lot
often
of
when you
times because you have to physically pick everything up.
And yes, yeah, and you have to let go. You got to wait. Am I taking all this with me? But when you stay in one place, like as long as I've been here 48 years, it's hard not to have collected things. So I'm now doing the work on the decluttering. My children are very happy about it.
They don't have to
And
do
I
it.
and I'm thinking of things that you said in your book as I'll be doing my next section of it.
Oh, wonderful.
So I have three more questions left, and then we'll see if there's anything you want to add, or maybe it's four. What are three simple ways someone can start to shift the energy in their home today?
Yeah. Well, we started to talk about that, and I really think the airflow is helpful. So if you can't open the windows, then maybe you light a little candle and you refresh the air with some essential oil spray. But getting that movement and changing the frequency that's in the air can be really helpful. We talked about decluttering. I still think that's great, but I get really overwhelmed by it. So setting a timer for 5 minutes, like you said, you when you single task and you focus your time, it's amazing what you can get done. The book I wrote actually taught me that. I wrote the first draft in 15-minute spurts over 6 weeks. I just would sit down after dinner and I said, this has been a life goal of mine for a long time and I haven't done it. So I'm going to sit down after dinner, 15 minutes, set the timer. When I get done, I get done. I'm not going to judge myself and we'll see what happens. And the first draft, like I said, was done in 6 weeks. It blew my mind. It was like, okay, you're here to teach me too. But that setting a timer, I think, really frees you from the worry of time or from the distractions because in 5 minutes I'm just going to get to go look at all my lovely distractions. So you can focus. And then we also talked about bringing in nature. I just love that, and I think we're meant to be outside, and we do pretty well here in California because we can so easily enjoy it. But I think a lot of times we get stuck inside and we forget how
Oh,
rejuvenating it is to be in nature. So if you can find a way to bring nature in a little bit, it can really help.
my friends in New York, they don't open their windows even. There's too much noise and dirt and loudness that comes in. So when I
Well,
go
it
to
is loud
the
in the
house, I
city.
feel like I can't breathe. I said, "Well, don't you open a window here?" I haven't opened a window in 20 years. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, different
So
lifestyle.
I feel like there's all simple things. This is not like rocket science on how to make these places much more pleasant. So how do you blend intuition and energy work when working with client spaces?
So I work with angels as part of the angel Reiki that I learned, getting to work with the archangels. So that's how I really tune into my intuition. But I think anyone who is familiar with meditating and getting to that spot in your mind can hear their own intuition and can use that. But my personal way of working is to work with the angels. So I tune in, and like you said, I kind of set up my sacred space for each session, and then go through doing the energy work, but still listening for messages.
All right. So is there more things that you want to share about the work that you do when you come to the client space, either remotely or uh I mean
In
someone like
person.
that lives in, yeah, like I would
Yeah,
assume you do ones in Northern California or ones within, close to your area.
yeah.
So
In the greater Santa Rosa area, it can go in person, but I do end up doing mostly remote right now. Just I'm here to support you. I think it's really important that I think maybe this is a type of self-care, right? You're making sure your space supports you in addition to all the things you're doing to help yourself, to understand that the environment you are in also affects you, but can be the opposite. It doesn't have to be something that weighs you down. It could be something that helps lift you up. And like we've talked about the whole time, little changes that have big impact. That's what I'm all about. This isn't a judgment. There's no big overhaul to be done. It's just you doing you more freely and enjoying it.
so you offered a free quiz, which I was wondering if you could, and if anyone wants to take the quiz, all they have to do is go to your website,
Yes,
correct?
it's at
And
deliciousease.com/quiz. You can
great.
download it.
And I took the quiz. I ended up with a number 54. I don't really know what that means, but I was wondering if you wanted to talk just a little bit about the quiz in case anyone would make that interest for them to take it and see what you had to say.
Yeah, of course. So I really enjoy food for thought and questions because I that's how I learn. So this quiz starts you to think about what different things in your space do affect your energy or affect your mood, affect your emotions. What, like you were talking about how you hadn't spent the time thinking about how the table tied you to past memories and then for to present emotions. So starting to make those connections can bring that awareness to see if there is stuck energy to be cleared that could really help things flow. So these questions aim for just easy ways to ask yourself, "Oh, is this something you've noticed or is this something you've experienced?" to help that awareness.
I thought they were interesting questions, and some of them I wasn't 100% sure. It's always hard to always, when there's the 1 to 5 rating, sometimes you're just not exactly sure where to go.
Yeah, and it changes.
But it gives you then at the end sort of an idea of what's where do you need to focus on this changes in your home. So I think that's also very good. So tell me, is there any other things that you'd like to share about either the things that you have to offer, or anything about your book, or anything about your website, or anything else that you'd like to tell our audience today?
Oh, well, I really appreciate that you read the book. So my book is available on Amazon. I also have a podcast. It's called the Intuitive Wisdom Podcast. And then my home energy reset service. No, I think we covered it. I think it's just I hope to help support your listeners and knowing that they are enough just as they are now, and that there are lots of ways energetically that they can support themselves, including in their environment.
Uh, I listened to your podcast, one of the things about lighting this morning.
Hmm.
And because lighting is very important to me. I don't have any window blinds. I like light, and I don't have a neighbor to peek in my window, so I don't have to worry about that. So I only use it for if there's too much sun coming in, you need to have protection. Otherwise, it's
Right.
always just light here. So I want to tell our listeners that I thought you had some very interesting things in. I didn't get to listen to the other podcast because I didn't have enough time, but I thought I signed up so that I can
Oh, thanks.
get your weekly check-in. But I thought they had wonderful things to offer because it was just a 10-minute thing about lighting that was really, really a good thing to have that complements if you're trying to change the frequency in your home. So I felt that the podcast you were offering was also really helping out if you were doing things to make changes. So it wasn't just listening about interviews like with people, it's also about directly, this is your lighting. I think lighting does this. And I just thought, just speaking about this, people don't think about that in the home. They maybe think about
No,
lighting or ambiance, but not for what it's doing for everything else in your space.
right.
So I thought that was a great,
Thanks.
a
Yeah, it's a mix of I do some solo episodes and have some guests. So it is a mix.
yes, I think that's a nice mix. And I read in your book somewhere that you had wanted to do a podcast, and that's when you and that so this was one of the things that was in your dream list of things
Hmm.
that you wanted to do. So all the things that we're seeing right now were all parts of the dreams that you had, all becoming reality.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
that's
Yes, they
and
are.
that's
Believing it's
and
possible.
that's yes, it's wonderful. So any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't know that I have any more. I like the mantras that you picked for us all. Just just believing in yourself. I think knowing that you're not alone. I work with the angels so that you always have guidance with you even when you feel alone. So that intuition is really key. And you talked about how emotions are a good sign. They're here to help you. Yeah, and just to go out and to be, not to worry so much about all the doing that you have to get done, but to remember who you are, who you be. That's what we're all excited to get to know.
That's very beautiful thought. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your wisdom on a small, medium, at large podcast. I want to thank all our listeners for liking, subscribing, joining us, sharing, commenting, and we look forward to our next episode. And we wanted to tell everybody to remember to share your stories because stories can heal. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.